I am going to, at 3:05, call the meeting to order. Joy, could you please do roll call?
Director Aguilar,
Present.
Director Kale, Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Here.
Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Here.
Director Pedroso,
Here.
Director Serrato,
Here.
Director Silvera,
Present.
Chair Hoag.
Here.
Thank you, and we do have a quorum.
All right, could you please stand for the flag salute? And I guess I will lead in the flag salute. So here we go. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, we need the approval. Why is that getting bigger and bigger? The approval of the agenda.
Agenda's growing as we speak here.
Madam Chair, I do have a request to modify the agenda if I could.
Oh, is that what I'm supposed to be reading?
Nope, I'll read it.
Oh.
I wanted to put it on the agenda because there's several items and I didn't want it to be confusing. So if I could, in the spirit of maximizing our time this afternoon, I'd like to request that we move pull the 3 oral reports. Those are our monthly updates from our department managers. So that would be items 8B, which is the RWA monthly update, item 12A, which is the transit monthly update, and item 16A, the transportation planning measure V update. There is information in your packet, and in moving forward, we'd be moving these into written reports and your information items in your agendas. And then also I'd like to request moving to consent the action items of item 15A, which is the contract amendment for the Dibbs Vanpool project, and item 15B, which is the contract authorization for the short range transit plan.
Okay.
I'll
Then
move on the executive director's request.
I'll second.
all those in favor? Oh, we need to do a roll call. I'm sorry, I forgot. Wrong meeting. Roll call, Joy.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale, Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Yes.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we're moving to item 3, public comment. At this time, public comment is available in advance of or during the meeting. See instructions for public comment in your packet. And if Stacy would like to, or Mary Michael would like to say, raise your hand, that kind of stuff.
Sure, I can do that, Madam Chair. To be recognized to speak, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. This can be found on your smartphone, tablet, or computer. If you're calling in from your phone and not using Zoom to view the meeting, please press *9 to alert the moderator of your desire to speak. Individuals who wish to speak will be recognized in the order they raise their hands and will be taken off mute by staff at the appropriate time. Comments submitted by email or voicemail in advance of the meeting will be read by staff after in-person comments are taken.
I do not see any hands raised, Madam Chair.
Sorry about that. Okay. And there's nobody on the computer or calling in or anything like that.
We have several folks joining us by phone and Zoom, and we have no raised hands.
Okay. So with that, we're going to move on to 4, Citizen Advisory Committee report. And that is Yamilet? Is that how you say your name?
That is how you say her name, Madam Chair. I don't see her name on here, so I'm just going to give it a second to see if anyone raises their hand. Maybe it's a number I don't recognize.
Okay.
But I'm not seeing anything.
No? Well, the Citizens Committee meeting highlights are in your packet. So if she is not here, should we move on? I'm thinking so. Do you see her at all?
I do not.
Okay, so we're gonna move on then to, and what were the one things that we moved, let's see, 8B. Okay, so Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority, we have number 5, information items. These items are included for informational purposes and there's no presentation. So what is included is a quarterly report on Merced County Regional Waste presentation. Oh, sorry, the dog messed me up here. Waste Management Authority Board approved contracts, which is on page 12. Does anybody have any questions about that? Hearing none, then we're going to move on to 6, consent calendar. All consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon one vote unless specifically removed from separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of staff, or a member of public. And we added 15A and 15B to that. Is that correct, Stacy?
I'm sorry, 15A and 15B will fall under the consent calendar for MCAG. So they will fall under
okay.
item 14.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Nope.
Okay, hearing none. Oh, do we need a motion for that? No. For the consent calendar? We don't need a motion. It's just informational, right?
Yeah, for item 6A, we have no items, and item 7 action items, we have no items. So we would go to discussion item A because discussion item B was pulled.
Okay. All right, well then we're moving on. Here we go. So now we are in item 8, discussion items. These items will be presented separately in the order to allow board members to ask questions and to provide staff direction. So we have 8A, presentation of operating capital and fleet draft budget for fiscal year 2021 and 2022, and that would be Nav and Eric. And that is on page 16.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, directors. Today, we're going to be going over the Regional Waste Authority's draft budget for fiscal year 2021. We're going to be talking about talk about the challenges in 2021 and accomplishments in 2021, and then go into our budget summary for 21-22, and then go into our capital budget and then our CIP budget. Eric will start off the presentation. So Eric, floor is yours.
Thank you, Nav. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Nav, next slide. There we go. So this slide presents, obviously it goes without saying we had some challenges last year for the authority with COVID. We had operational staff shortages due to the COVID outbreak. We had some longer times on our equipment repair, which caused delays at our tipping pad for our residents and our customers. With COVID, we had a lot of inbound traffic increase to private hauls. And an increase in construction costs due to materials and labor shortages, and of course, providing PPE for our employees. Next slide. Other challenges, as you all know, the treated wood waste variance was something that we were surprised by and then happy to find a solution for. That variance is a 6-month variance, and so we do anticipate if legislation is not passed, we'll have to continue to face that. The landfill gas to energy workshops, those have concluded. We're in discussions with UC on that project. As this project continues, this is another piece of our operational budget that will go and be a challenge for us in the future. SB 1383 presents a big challenge in the sense that we have to provide, a spot for the jurisdictions to be able to take their materials to in order for the jurisdictions to comply with 1383. And we're currently in that procurement right now. And then, of course, the renegotiation of the recycling materials contract for transporting and hauling, that has been a challenge as well with increased costs. Next slide. So for the achievements, something we'd like to be proud of for the folks here at the authority, this is the year that the board has had a full year at which we were open all Saturdays. This is really to your credit for allowing the public to have access 6 days a week full time. And so there's been no interruption of the landfill operations, even with COVID, which is a great success point. Overall, the tonnages have increased. We saw in the very beginning of our budget that we were starting to get back from the April of 2020 where COVID was just beginning. And so it was good to see increase in tonnages. We completed the scale project at Highway 59 to add to efficiency on the scale. And we've gotten treated wood waste permits for both sites. Of course, we continue to host HHW community events, and we've purchased a dozer and a tarp deployer. Next slide. So some summary of the 2021-22 draft budget, which is before you today. We expect the landfill revenue is projected to increase by 2.6 million or 20%. This really represents going back to where we were before COVID. We took a very conservative estimate last fiscal year because we were on the heels of COVID. Now we're going back to pre-COVID numbers, and so that's where you see that. This also includes an increase in operating expenses, by 1.22 million, which is a 13% increase. This then returns the staffing and adds to the staffing that we've got. There's no addition in overall staffing, other than we are removing one janitorial clerk position that we had. That individual has retired. We're outsourcing that. And then we are adding in the new budget an engineering technician at the landfill to help with the 1383, landfill gas energy, and the many different projects that we have in the pipes. And of course, no cost of living adjustments are proposed in the budget. Next slide. So for budget priorities, we want to maintain proper staffing to support the operation. We want to maintain and update equipment for efficient use and operation at the landfills. We need to continue to pay down our 2015 bond debt. There's about 15 million unpaid, and continue to fund our closure fund, which is required by state law. And then we'll prioritize and complete our capital projects as we are able to complete them, and then update the jurisdictions about the Senate Bill 1383 and make modifications to be compliant with Senate Bill. For those that are following the news, next slide, please. Senate Bill 619 did pass today by the Senate with a vote of 32-0. And so that is the bill that will allow for some relief to Senate Bill 1383. And we'll bring you more on that when it is finally signed and adopted. So projected revenues and expenses. Nob, did you want to handle this?
Yeah, I'll go over this. So as Eric mentioned, yeah, we are projecting increase in our revenues. Of that $15.4 million of landfill tipping, 65% of that is made up by in-county tipping fees. So that's jurisdictional and gate tipping fees that we receive. The remaining 35% is out-of-county tonnage. So what 65% represents about $10 million. And if you look at our total operating cost, it's about $11 million. So if we did not have importation, we would have to look at, doing staff reductions or reductions in our expenditure. Also, at the same time, we were looking at, looking at our rates fees and see if we need to raise them or not. But with the importation, we're able to stabilize any increases to our rate fees as we haven't in the last seven years, I believe so. Our expenditure did increase. Two of the main reasons why it increased. One of the reasons why is the state solid waste fee, which they charge us every ton, they charge us like a percentage, and they're increasing that from $1.40 to anywhere to $3 a ton. So we're anticipating anywhere from $1.40 to $3. So what we did was we budgeted halfway, about $2.50 increase in tonnage, which increases to almost a $400,000 increase in fees. And we're also, as Eric mentioned, we're also putting away more money towards our closure account, which is in a tune of $500,000. So that's why you see an increase in our operating expenses. Right.
Yeah, excellent. So for our fleet purchases, we have proposed in this budget year $1.52 million for fleet purchases. Here before you are what we're going to be purchasing: 2 loaders, a van for a spotter, Kubota RTV, a dozer, and 2 roll-off bins. The 2 roll-off bins are going to be used in conjunction with the treated wood waste. So next slide. Here before you, you have the capital improvement projects list. These represent just under $20 million worth of projects, 19.7 million rather, of projects that have already been approved by the board. We just wanted to show you that these are projects that are still approved, that we're waiting for some sort of action in order to complete. You'll see before you a north-south compost road to Highway 59, scale house land improvements that will actually come off this sheet here this month. The Valley Fill project is a good example where we're waiting for some migration gas issues before we move forward with it. And we obviously, with Los Banos and Billy Wright, we've got 1383 funds that are there nestled just in the event that we need to act on those at that site, as well at Highway 59. Next slide. So together with that 19.7 million, here are the proposed projects for the authority going forward. And this represents $9.4 million. One of the biggest bulk line items we have is the first one, which is the cell 6B2. Anytime a landfill expands a cell, this can take anywhere from 2 years to 6 or 7 years. And so it's good to get out ahead of it. In our case right now with 6B1 that was just expanded within the last 2 or 3 years, we are expecting about 5 years of lifespan on that half cell. This 6B2 completes the north half of that cell, and that's the largest component there. We also have gas well water monitoring wells that are going in play to help with migration and also regulatory compliance. We are looking at a burn box. This burn box is unique to the authority, not unique to CDF and some of the fire places, as well as Kern County, where because we cannot put our green waste material over our landfill cover, this will help us in another way of diversion because it cannot be placed in the landfill. And we've got some, if we do not go forward with the landfill gas to energy project, the budget that you see for the flare upgrade is required by the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District prior to 2022, 23, I believe. So we're getting ready to do that if we should need to. Next slide.
Supervisor Silvera has a question. Does that pertain to the slides you just looked at?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling on me, Chair. Eric, what is a van for a spotter? I mean, is it just as simple as that, like a van that the spotter sits in?
Right. So,
Go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead.
So the van for the spotter is not just a van where a person sits in. So whenever someone comes into landfill and drops off like hazardous waste materials, they can't dispose in the landfill. So we put that. Usually we put in the truck, but sometimes they're flammable. So we put them inside of a van. We need a van to put them inside to make sure that they're not exposed to like direct sunlight or whatever it is. And so that's why a van is needed. And usually a spotter is the one that's going out and into the trash and taking those removals hazardous waste out of the trash to put it into hazardous waste material areas. So that's the purpose of a van.
Okay. And then my next question is, it seems like I know that we had a retired janitor. It just seems like it's such a big increase in cost. So all I'm seeing on this side of it is the increase in cost for the outsourcing the janitorial services. What I don't see is how much is that saving us because we're no longer having to pay a full-time employee. Can you explain a little more on that?
Yeah, there's two folds to that, Supervisor Silvera. So one of the reasons that the work was getting too much for her because of the work that's required for 2 sites. And we were paying with benefits around $80,000, right? So, to clean both sites and if there's a infection or whatever, disinfect, it was getting way too much for the employee. So instead of, hiring another employee to help out, we'd rather just outsource that to a cheaper cost, around $30,000 to $40,000 to a company who could actually have the resources to do those instead of hiring another additional person. which would be another $80,000 with benefits and salaries and retirement. So it was just better to outsource that once that person had, left the agency.
So because I'm just looking at it at Zoom and I don't have my agenda, the page by page pulled up. How much was the additional cost to outsource it?
So next month you will see an item come to the board. It's about $50,000 a year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So this slide is just a summary or recap of our capital improvements, our operating cash, our revenue expenditures, plus our debt and capital money that we put away towards capital and CIPs, and our fleet budget, where we have our balance minus what we're looking to purchase for 2021 and what our remaining balances for going forward for future purchase of capital. This concludes our presentation. So if anybody has any questions, Eric or I can answer any questions.
Okay, I don't see anyone else's hands up. Do we need, this is just informational only, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No one else has any questions before we move on? Thank you, Nav and Eric, for your presentation. Okay, so 8B has been removed, and we are going to move down to the Joint Powers, Transit Joint Power Authority for Merced County, item number 9. These items are included for informational purposes. No presentation is made by staff unless board members have questions, and we have the quarterly report on the Transit Joint Powers Authority approved contracts, and that's on page 32. And that's informational only. So we're moving on to consent calendar. All consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon with one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of the staff, or a member of the public. And we have 10A is accept the drug and alcohol policy provided by First Transit. So we need to have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Did I move ahead, or was that all included?
You're correct, Madam Chair. It's just item 10.
Okay. There's no motion? We don't need to approve the consent calendar?
I see Director Silvera's hand raised.
Oh,
Thank you. Madam Chair, motion to approve the consent calendar.
do we have a second?
Second by Aguilar.
All right. So let's call for the roll call.
Director Aguilar.
Yes.
Director Kale. Director Espinoza. Director Faria.
Yes.
Director McDaniel.
Aye.
Director Nagy.
Aye.
Director Pereira.
Yes.
Director Pedroso.
Aye.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Director Silvera.
Aye.
Chair Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Excuse me, Madam Chair and Joy, I believe Director Kale has joined the meeting. He's joining by phone though, so I just want to make sure he knows he can unmute himself, but he'll have to do it on his end.
Okay. Welcome. Do we need to ask for his vote?
I will do that for the record. For item number 10A, consent calendar, Director Kale.
might want to tell him how to unmute himself from the phone.
Yes. There he is.
Thank you. Vote is recorded.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we are going to move to number 11, action items. Action items will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. So please make sure I remember to say that. So we have 11A, approval of the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. Well, I didn't get done finishing talking here. A budget amendment number 2 to carry over unspent coronavirus aid relief and economic security act funds. And this is NAV. Go ahead, NAV.
Sorry, Madam Chair, about that. I got a little trigger happy. So this is to amend our current year's budget, the FY 2021 budget, to carry for unspent 1920 CARES Act money to offset in the amount of $796,992 to offset our local funds in amount of the same amount with our state funding. As you guys know, we suspended the fares for 8.5 months. So we're seeing we didn't collect fares for 8.5 months. That also includes, we did not bill Merced College, and we did not utilize any of Measure B funds because we weren't collecting any fares. So basically, staff is seeking approval to amend the current year's budget in the amount of $796,000 to carry forward the funds. That concludes the presentations. Any questions?
Director Pereira.
Thank you. Just one quick question. So can we use CARES Act funding to replace lost income?
Yes, in the transit agency, the FTA, yes, we can to
Okay.
offset loss in local funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone else have any questions? Okay, we will open this up to public comment. Anyone out there would like to raise their hand or call in?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. Seeing no comments and no other questions from the board, we need to have a motion to approve to adopt the final fiscal 2021, 2022. Oh wait, is that the one? Oh, we're doing the approval for the CARES Act. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong paper. Okay, we need a motion for that.
Aggie, move to approve.
Second, Pedroso.
Okay, Joy, can we call the roll?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Aye.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item B, adopt final fiscal year 2021-2022 operating and capital budget. NAV report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the last time you guys hear me of today. So we are doing this is a final presentation for our adoption of Transit Joint Powers Authority proposed budget for 2021. There's expenditures, there's no change in expenditures. The budget is going to increase by 1,136,348, and of that, 60% is made up of the operation and maintenance contract. We're also looking at maintaining our vehicles and looking at upgraded technology equipment software for paratransit, microtransit, and AVL. But we did have some changes to our budget in regards to funding. So we did have changes in our operating revenue budget. We are requesting an increase of LTF in the $2 million and reduce the CRISA 5311 and the CARES Act 5311 in the amount of $1,250,000 and $857,000. These funds must be expended by 6/30/2025 and 2026. So what we're doing is, instead of utilizing the funds in this next fiscal year, we are spreading those funds out over the next several years so we can stabilize our request in LTF, along with, stabilize, make sure we have enough funding going forward. And the second change, or the other two changes, are in our capital projects for the admin building. We are reducing it by 17,000. We are reducing our FTA request by 13,000. And then the bus stop improvement, we are reducing our SGR portion, but increasing our FTA portion by 13. So that is still a reduction of $23,000. This is our capital budget for fiscal year 2021. And that concludes the presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? I don't see any hands. No? Okay, then we'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone out there that would like to comment upon adopting the final fiscal year 2021-2022 operating and capital budget?
I see no hands raised.
All right, then we'll close public comment. And we need a motion to adopt the final fiscal year 2021-2022 operating and capital budget.
I'll move to adopt.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
All right, let's call for the roll.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hogue.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we'll move on to 11C, authorize bus shelter purchase and improvements plan and approve grant application submittal for Federal Transit Administration Section 5339A for the FFY 2017-18, and that would be Christine Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, directors. Nice to see you all. I'm going to share my screen here. And there. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So the item before you is the purchase and acquisition of shelters so that we can start replacing some of them throughout the service area. So an example of some of the shelters that we currently have installed in the service area are the ones that you see on your screen. And you can see some of our roofs are caving in. They're just weathered and in desperate need of replacement. The amount of paint on them is pretty heavily layered and in need of replacing. These are not modular shelters, and so we cannot just replace the back panel. We have to replace the entire shelter, and the equipment needed and the labor that's required is something that is beyond the ability and the existing equipment that transit staff has. And so the recommendation before you today is to start replacing each of these shelters. And so we would be replacing it with shelters similar to these. They would be painted a similar blue to what we currently have. And they will have a variety of options. So it would be a PO for up to 45 shelters. And we would buy each one customizable by the location that we will be installing them. And so they can have something as minimal as 3 walls or no walls and just footings, or they can have a full walled shelter. Some of them will have system maps, and some of them will have different amenities like solar panels. And if a shelter is located under the shade, we would not necessarily need to add a solar panel or lighting, because the sun would never hit the solar panel, and so the lighting would not work properly. So we wanted to provide a variety of options so that we are ensuring that we're accommodating the location as needed with the appropriate type of bus shelter. So the next steps would be to the approval of this item would authorize the purchase of 45 bus shelters over the next 3 years. Staff will implement the installation of the bus shelters in 2 phases. So phase 1 would be in the purchase of 27 shelters and the installation of those. And then phase 2 would be the 18 shelters that would remain in the total purchase order. We had a pretty robust conversation at the technical review board, and we will be scratching the priority list that's within the staff report, and we will be working directly with jurisdictions to ensure that the jurisdictions, the 6 cities in the county, to identify priority locations for each of these bus stop shelters. The idea is to install these at existing bus stops, and whether it's an installation of a new shelter or a replacement of a shelter is going to vary by location and by jurisdiction. The funding that's currently allotted in the budget, there's funding currently allotted in the budget for the installation of the shelters. And staff has identified additional funding that can be used for additional shelters if that's needed in the future. So we can potentially replace all of them within the service area. We have about 70 to 80 shelters, and then any expansion would be additional to that. So the item before you is appropriating the 5339A 1718 funding in the amount of $201,890. We already have allocated LC top funding, so state funding from fiscal year 18-19 to the same project. So the requested action before you is going to be a 2-part rather than the 3-part in the agenda. And so the requested action A would be authorizing the issuance of a purchase order to purchase 45 shelters over the next 3 years in an amount not to exceed $366,890. And this purchase order would be, we'd be utilizing CalAct, which is a California Transit Association's pre-procured federally compliant bid for bus shelters. The timeline to get in on that bid is quite limited. And so if we choose not to do that, then we would have to wait until it's re-procured or procured at a later date or on our own. And then the second part of the action is adopting a resolution 2021-521, authorizing the FTA section 5339A 1718 bus and bus facilities grant application submittal for the bus shelter improvement project. Any questions, Director Faria?
You're on mute.
Could you please put the pictures up once again of the 3 options? Okay. For my own opinion is what if we're going to be spending this much money, and we've got grant money to help us, I would go first class, and that go big or go home. If that bigger one, that beautiful fancy one there, would fit into the neighborhoods where we're planning to put it, or maybe you might want to look at each jurisdiction and what they would want for their own. Would that be possible?
I'm sorry, I was not able to hear that. You're a little hard to hear.
That's strange.
If you could direct, I can translate that. I heard it well.
Thank you.
Christine, it was a question as if we could go with different styles for different jurisdictions based on local preference.
There are two versions that are currently procured. We can look into it and see if that's something that we can do. We would be able to, so if we issue a PO to the company that we're going with, we would be able to have a not to exceed amount, and then we can just purchase shelters within that same amount. My request would be that they are the same color, but we can definitely present options so long as there's a not to exceed amount and we don't specify the actual type of shelter. That would be possible.
Thank you. Can you hear me more clearly now? Is that any better?
Yeah, and I think the fans on my computer are making it a little hard to hear as well.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I can speak pretty loud. I'm I'm a singer by trade. But actually I have to carry a CCW for my voice. But yeah, my personal preference is to let each jurisdiction choose what's best for their particular locations. Because, you know, some of the bus stops are in like smaller neighborhoods, others are in busier, bigger places. And I think each town knows what's best for each town. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Nagy, you have a question?
Well, I just kind of the same thing that Director Faria was saying. I think I just want to make sure locations aren't dialed in on this list that are down here, that they can maybe be changed per negotiation with the city.
Absolutely, that's the plan. The list was comprised of some of the bus shelters that are taking some additional maintenance or in need of replacement. And so we will make those recommendations and work with each jurisdiction to actually pin down the locations that work best for each jurisdiction.
Perfect, thank you.
Not a problem.
And Director Pedroso?
Yes, I agree that I think, you know, allowing the communities to kind of to go with it, but as long as we make sure that they're, you know, at least the same color. I mean, at least so that everybody is aware, you know, until when they're traveling from different places, that they at least know that, you know, this is a bus stop and that type of thing. So I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that there is some uniformity in regards.
That's absolutely something that we can do with the not to exceed amount. I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many options there are, but I can present them from this vendor. And it could be the case that, you know, this $8,500 shelter, which is the higher end of this version, ends up being closer to $10,000 if it's the version that you want. And so that could cause, you know, us not to purchase 45 actual shelters, but we have identified additional funding to purchase more shelters. So we can definitely present those options to you guys before we start installation or start having those conversations with jurisdictions, or after we do, and then before we install.
Excellent, thank you. Although it sounds like Tom wants to build like a castle or something over there, so.
It is Los Banos, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knows how I feel about Los Banos.
Director Faria, do you have another question?
Oh, I just wanted to comment on color. Yes, the bus color is like a trademark color, and it's vital, I think, that the color be uniform throughout the county. I mean, people associate color with trademarks to the point where See's Candy's white paint is trademarked. That particular white is so characteristic that they have a trademark. So yeah, the color, I think, is a big deal, that it's uniform. And then, like I said, the size and location that each jurisdiction can choose if they want. If they want to help us build a castle in Los Banos, we'll find some funding. We'll be glad to work on that. Thanks.
I think you're on your own there. Director Silvera, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Christine, do they all come with garbage cans? I see in both pictures, they got a garbage can right next to it. Is that part of the price that you see there? Is like the shelter with the bench and the garbage can all of part of it?
We did include them in these estimates, but we can purchase the shelter without the actual garbage can. I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys the higher end of the shelter so that you weren't surprised and when, you know, they came in higher than this. So the 8511 that you see here would include the garbage can and the bench and the solar lighting, and then all of the panels. And then this also includes, you don't see it here, but it also includes a system app. And the system app is something that we want to start implementing at all of the shelters. Because we are such a regional service, it would be nice for our bus riders to be able to know kind of which routes go where, so that they, you know, when they're at a bus stop, if they don't have an app or something, they can just look at the map and know that they need to get to, you know, the T route, and they can transfer at the transpo.
Perfect, thank you. No, I think that it's working with the jurisdictions. I don't think we need to get too crazy. Narrow down to a couple ideas as to which, like these are the two to choose from, which one works better for you, and then maybe talking with them on which ones they think have the more immediate need based upon local ridership stuff that they see that maybe folks at the bus don't see. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, definitely. Thank you.
All righty. Are there any other questions from the directors? Okay, then we need to open it up for public comment. Is there anybody out there, Mary Michael, that has their hand raised?
Not that I can see, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, well then we will move into the action item, and it's split into two, and I don't have it to read. There we go. Can we get it back on here to read it, Christine?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't realize my screen wasn't sharing.
Just so that I can read them separately. We can get.
Of course.
Yeah.
There,
Thank you.
there we go. Okay, so we need to have a motion to authorize the issuance of purchase order to purchase 45 shelters over the next 3 years, not in an amount not to exceed $366,890. Director Faria?
I would move to approve.
Sorry.
We need a second?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Oh, okay.
With that, does the action or does the motion need to include letting the individual jurisdictions choose which station, not with the not to exceed? Just out of curiosity.
It's up to you if you would like to include that as a part of the motion. Staff will work with each jurisdiction, but I think that the clarification on item A would be to purchase a maximum of 45 shelters. So if we end up going with different price shelters, the 45 would be the maximum that we would be able to purchase. But if you would like to add the action to have MCAG work with, or TJPA staff work with each jurisdiction, you're more than welcome to add that. I don't know if that answered your question.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, and I would look to council if there's any reason, but I believe that actions A and B can be taken together.
Oh, really? I thought they were
Yes,
separate
that's-
items.
No, they can be taken together. They are one requested action, so they can be combined into one motion.
Okay. All right. Well, then, do you want me to reread it? Or do you want me just to read and adopt resolution number 2021 05-20-01 authorizing the Federal Transit Administration Section 5339A FFY 2017-2018 buses and bus facility grant application submittal for the bus shelter improvement project. And Tom's motion first is okay.
I can restate the motion,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if it's okay.
Okay.
I would move to adopt resolution number 2021-52001 as read by title.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, with the friendly amendment of allowing each jurisdiction to determine the type, style, and location of these of the shelters.
Okay.
Second.
Now do we have a second? Thank
Second.
you. Joy, call for the roll call, please.
Thank you. And please verify who made the second motion.
Pedroza.
Thank you. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedrozo,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hoag,
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we're going to item 12, which we have removed. Is that correct? So we're moving on to Merced County Association of Governments. Number 13, information items. These items are included for informational purposes. No presentation will be made by staff unless board members have questions, and it's A, MCAG Governing Board Calendar 2021, B, Calendar of Meetings, Conferences, and Events, C, MCAG Newsletter May 2021, and D, Quarterly Report on Merced County Association of Government Boards Approved Contracts. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to item 14, consent calendar. Oopsie, don't go so fast. All consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon with one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board and a member of the staff or a member of the public. Did we add, we did something with, okay, here we go.
Yes, we added 2 items to this list.
Yes, which are 15A and B?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to read all of these then, yes? Okay, here we go. Do I have to read them all or just as they're all present? Listed.
I lean to council on that. I believe it can be as listed, but I'll look to council to confirm that.
Yes, as listed is fine.
Okay, so I need approval. Is this an action item, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I need approval.
This is Director Silvera. I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the items that were added at the beginning of our meeting with the change of the agenda.
McDaniel, second.
Was I supposed to put that in public questions first?
I believe you could ask them
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Is there any comments or questions from the public on item consent calendar A through C, B, A through B, A, B, A, B?
There are
Mary,
no
Mike.
hands raised.
Oh, man. Okay, well, going with that then, and there are no other questions, we have a motion to approve and a second. So Joy, can we get the roll call, please?
Yes, Director Aguilar, Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Oh, man. Okay, so now we're going on to action items 15C, a meeting format for future governing board meetings. Stacy, what do you want to say about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am seeking board direction on whether or not there's an interest to resume in-person meetings, and if so, further direction on the preferred format and location. I'll say that there are really 2 options that staff has posed. Should the board wish to resume in-person meetings as we had regularly scheduled prior to COVID, which would mean rotating between all of the jurisdictions. The considerations would be that not all of the venues would provide adequate space. In fact, I don't know if any would provide adequate space on the dais for us to maintain social distancing. And there wouldn't be, or I should say microphones would need to be shared. So if social distancing and individual microphones were a concern, the other option could be that we would utilize both the Atwater and the Los Banos community centers, which would provide adequate space to span out. We could utilize the MCAG owned microphone so that every board member could have their own microphone, and it would still east-west balance rotation. So the questions I'll just throw out are, do you want to resume in person? And if so, June your recommended date or later? And then of the two options, whether we just go back to pre-COVID style, recognizing the space limitation and the microphones, or would you like to temporarily begin rotating between Atwater and Los Banos community centers?
I have a question, not a question, but my comment is, now they're saying that we can be together 3 feet, not 6 feet. And supposedly by June 15th, we're all open. So do you want to just wait until after the next meeting, or is the meeting after June 15th?
Is that a question for me or for your colleagues?
For you, I guess. But then the next meeting is in June. June what?
Yes, June 17th.
Okay, so after that, it should be lifted. So does it really matter?
Well, it's, it gets a little sticky. Us being FTA funded, there are some FTA regulations and guidelines that we have to adhere to in certain spaces, like masks and whatnot. Some of it, we just haven't been able to get the guidelines that we need to know. It really is a question of the board. I mean, that's why we use the option of just go back to our regular setting. But if that wasn't a consensus of the board, it was an alternative that we could kind of ease into learning in person, but still giving us a little more space. So it really is the preference of the board. The one caveat, or the one thing I need to confirm, is just the mask mandate, as I know FTA has extended the mandate into the fall. So that's going to be the one question about being in person in a space that is conducting FTA business. I suspect it won't be an issue, but I just want to confirm that.
Okay. All right. So the first hand up was Director Silvera. Oh, no, actually, Lloyd, were you up beforehand? I think you were.
It doesn't matter. You call on whoever you want to go next. Yeah, so I believe that we should do in person at our next meeting. And but I also, I don't know if anybody in our group has underlying conditions. So if somebody wants us to be in a venue where we can be 6 foot apart, I'm okay with that. But I believe that the in person is where we should head, and I'll defer after that.
Okay, Director Silvera, what is your opinion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we go back to what we used to be with our rotation between just kind of continue the calendar wherever wherever we're at now, just keep that. We're not trying to start over again. We'll just fall in line wherever it is in our June meeting, going back to normal. But however, that being said, I do understand what my colleague from District 4 said is if there is somebody, and I'm not asking anybody to reveal anything, but if there is somebody that doesn't feel comfortable doing that, I am sympathetic to that. But if it's just up to me, I say we go back and doing our thing. And that being said, remember, the governor said on June 15th, everything goes back to normal.
Hey, Director Serrato.
Thank you, Chair. I'd agree with one little comment. I think June 15th, we maybe for the June meeting, we do it like this again. And then after that, go back to normal, as Scotty said, with the regular rotation. And June 17th is pretty close to June 15th. And, it gives us even 6 months, back half of the year after the fiscal year, to get back to normal. So just my thought. I agree, but I'd wait until July instead of June. That's all.
Director Faria.
I'm good going back in person in any format anyone wants to go to. I like the rotation. But like I said, I'm good to go back in person. Some people may have issues, as Director Silvera mentioned, but I don't. Whatever everybody wants to do, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Director Kale, how about you?
I say I am one of those people who is at risk, but I'm not scared. If cancer can't kill me, this little virus can't either. So I say we go back to regular normal.
Okay, Director Nagy.
Yep, I agree with everyone, and I think that we need to start our city county dinners back up soon after that also.
I agree. Okay, Director McDaniel.
Yeah, I guess I'm sounding just like everybody else. I think we should go back, and I think our first meeting back should be at the chair's chambers.
Mine? In Dos Palace?
Starting DP.
Let's not. There's not good acoustics there. But I'm good with whatever. I'm easy. So
Start the county for the
The
warm-up.
county
let's start at the
is,
county.
the county is our regularly scheduled location in June, and July would be at the city of Atwater.
Okay. Then let's start at the county. I'm good with going. If everybody's good with going, let's just have my last meeting be in person. Because that's my last meeting, right, Stacy?
Yes.
Mhm. It'll be a doozy. Let's make it a doozy.
So this is an action
See.
item.
Oh, okay, this is an action item. Okay, I lost my place. Here we go. Okay, so we need to open this up to public comment. Are there any public comments out there, Mary Michael, that are saying that we don't want to meet in person? Or any opposition?
I don't see any comments from anyone.
Okay, well then let's close the public comment and let's have a motion to resume our in-person meeting at the county building on June 17th. So the meeting format for the future governing board meetings would be in person, and the first one would be June 17th at the Merced County office, right? Merced
Yes.
County? Yes, okay.
And this is
So I need a
Lloyd, and
motion.
also move.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Joy, do you want to call the roll?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Yay. So we will see everyone in person. Okay, so we have eliminated item 16, right? And so we will be moving into other reports, which are 17 executive directors reports. So that would be Stacy.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, we do have the Caltrans report on item 16B.
Oh, I'm sorry. I scratched too many things. Okay.
And I'm
All
gonna
right.
see if Mary Michael, if we have, I see Marlon on from District 10.
All right. I'm sorry.
Good
So we
afternoon.
will have the Caltrans report. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to eliminate you.
No
So go
problem. Thank you to the board and thank you, Chair Hoag, and thank you, Director Guzman. Just want to give a quick update and I'll be brief. So I'll start at the 30,000 foot level, if I may. And I do want to apologize, Dennis, our director, Dennis Agar, could not make it today, but he gave his regards. I'll start with some major news that's come out of the governor's office. We have now initiated it's an initiative, but basically we have a $1.5 billion effort that's being kicked off over the next 3 years, and it's called Clean California. This is in partnership with local governments as well as other entities of state and non-state. So it's going to create roughly 15,000 jobs, but it's going to involve a public awareness campaign, and really it's based off of fact that we have a budget surplus, and there's a need to really address some of the things that we've been dealing with lately for the pandemic, such as litter, homelessness, and beautification. So you'll hear more about that in the next couple of days and weeks. I expect that there will be a press event somewhere in the northern San Joaquin Valley, so just be on the lookout for that. And I do believe the governor was in Merced last week or so, but that's one big thing that's happening. And also, we do have another effort. CTC, our California Transportation Commission, this week allocated almost $1 billion worth of projects. And one that is of local note is in Los Banos and Firebaugh at the safety roadside rest area. And that is going to be a $28 million restoration project for both the northbound and southbound roadside rest areas on I-5. So just FYI, that will be happening, and we're gonna get that project moving forward pretty shortly. And so moving down a little bit lower, we do, as part of District 10 and statewide for Caltrans, May is our bike month. And so we're right now encouraging folks, especially our own internal staff, to really enjoy the air that we have out there, the cleaner air that we have out here lately. But, try and think about health and just being more focused on environmental friendly and climate change reduction activities, low vehicle miles traveled activities. So that's something that aligns with our Caltrans strategic plan. And we're trying to make efforts to improve our bicycle pedestrian accessibility. And that involves our Caltrans active transportation plan for District 10, which we're still currently finalizing. And that will be completed hopefully by the end of this fiscal year. So I did want to mention that. And I know Dennis mentioned recently we have our highway workers memorial service for the 189 highway workers that have died recently for our state service. So just wanted to highlight that. But I will move on to some local projects that are happening in Merced County, one of them being in State Route 99 southbound. Actually, this is in Atwater, and it's the Atwater Rehabilitation Project. 2 days ago, we just did some shifting of the median, and there will be work ongoing basically until February of next year. So just be aware if you're driving in Atwater, basically south of Buhat Road to south of West Side Boulevard. And there are some other construction activities happening, preventive maintenance, rock float protection in various areas around the county. So just FYI. Lastly, I did want to mention there are, as we mentioned, the cleanup efforts. There was one cleanup effort in particular that happened in City of Merced. Our Caltrans office, we had some excess land that we were selling off. And as part of that, we did a major cleanup adjacent to our right-of-way on Route 99. And this is actually in the region of Girard Avenue, just north of the Mission Avenue Campus Parkway intersection. So if you guys are driving by there, it's a lot cleaner than it was before. But I'll lastly say that we want to make sure that we're addressing all the maintenance, litter, and encampment needs that you see out there, out and about when you're driving or walking, riding around. So as you continue to see those, please let us know. We want to make sure that we address your needs and concerns. We really appreciate the partnership of the whole board. And of course, Stacy, we appreciate it. So with that, I will pass it back to the board. If there's any questions, comments, love to hear it. Thank you.
All right, Director Silvera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Marlon, I wanted, if you could follow up with me, I did receive the letter that you guys sent out that basically was talking about all of the different projects going on around the district. and our counties more specifically. One of note to me is the Centinela Avenue in Santanella, the right-hand turn lane on the southbound side. And it says that it's not warranted at this time. A study was completed and I just have a really hard time figuring out how they did a legitimate study when school hasn't been in session. And typically this is a school time problem when you have folks that are coming from the mobile home park there and the outskirts of Santanella that are coming down southbound on Highway 33 and making a right-hand turn onto Centinela Boulevard with truck traffic and so I guess maybe could you shed a little bit of light onto, like, you know, what are their parameters for actually doing these studies?
Right. And, you know, I apologize. I don't want to speak too much on that because that is our traffic operations branch that handles the investigations. But I do remember, Supervisor, that you mentioned that in a previous meeting. And we did talk about how during school time is when we would typically do our investigation, because that's when you would see the impact. Right. So I'm actually shocked to see that the investigation was completed already. What I'll do is I'll follow up and see what the dynamics were in the investigation and get back to you on that, because I do agree that is a concern that we want to make sure we address. So we'll follow up with you on that, Supervisor.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
I'll give you an extra hour. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. You need to close out. That's still on the admin. And I'm walking out this door. She'll have to lock up.
Supervisor Pereira has his hand.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Director Pereira.
Yes, so there's a homeless camp that is located, if you're on Highway 99, where it crosses the Merced River. It would be on the, I guess it would be south of the river, and it would be east of Highway 99. They're just north of Livingston. And it's you know, the people are putting trash into the river. So do you guys coordinate like with Fish and Wildlife on those kinds of projects where it might be impacting the waterway? Or is that something I'm not 100% sure that's on Caltrans property. You know, maybe it isn't, but at least raise that for somebody to look at. And I know our county outreach team has been going out for about 2 to 3 weeks and outreaching to the people, trying to get them to services. But now it's to the point where we need to take it to the next level. And then I have another concern. On North Highway 59 out at the Merced River, Caltrans put a new bridge in there. Oh, it's probably been about 5 or 6, 7 years ago now. And they planted oak trees as a part of the landscaping. And you know, oak trees, the valley oaks get to be, you know, 3-4 foot across. And so I've been meaning to mention this to Director Agar, and you know, he's not here today, and you are. So I'd like to ask that those trees be pulled. You know, at some point in time, they're going to be deadly to people, right? And so I just don't think it makes sense to have those trees there on the shoulder. I think eventually it'll be a big traffic hazard. And you know, anyways, so that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Director Pereira. If I could get some quick clarification, I didn't catch that last part where the location was of the oak trees.
Sure, it's on North Highway 59.
Okay, North 59.
At the Merced River Bridge.
Okay, great, perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that, and yeah, we do coordinate with Fish and Wildlife if a water body is involved with any maintenance issue or, of course, construction. So we'll definitely provide some follow up on that for sure. So thank you for letting us know.
I appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your information. And we're going to move on to Executive Director's report. So Stacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just briefly, I want to thank many of the directors, starting with Director Silvera, for his time and efforts in chairing the One Voice Committee this year, and also to Directors McDaniel, Serrato, Aguilar, Kale, and Faria for your participation in the program. This was our first virtual One Voice program, and we had excellent participation from the board and from jurisdiction. So I also just want to give a shout out to the cities of Gustine, Atwater, and Livingston, who also had local elected officials on the in the delegation, as well as staff across the board. So just thank you all. I know the program is a lot of time, particularly the way we had it structured. We weren't in DC, so we didn't get the benefits of the good food and seeing in the sites, but you still put all the time and effort into it. So just thank you all for being flexible and dedicated to the program. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go down the list and hope if you have something and I skip you, just put your hand up, because then you come to the top of the list here. So Supervisor or Director Silvera is right underneath Stacy, so I'm gonna call on him if he has anything to report.
Nothing other than just, it was a great team effort on the One Voice trip, and want to thank all my colleagues and other elected officials and staff for the work that was put into it. I thought it was a really good trip, a very, very long trip, a lot of hours involved in it, but hopefully it bears a little bit of fruit here pretty quickly. So thank you.
Okay, Director Perea.
No comments, thank you.
All right, Director Nagy.
I just had a kind of a side note that on the One Voice, it's kind of a silly thing people think, but City of Gustine has gone back there and talked to Fish and Wildlife about the egret problem that we've had here in Gustine. And it took us 3 or 4 years, but this year we finally got a depredation permit. And in the first month, we've harvested over 2,600 eggs and over 1,200 egret nests. So you can see the magnitude of the problem was not understated. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, Director Faria. You're on mute.
Yeah,
oh, there you go.
Hey, thanks. The One Voice was great. Thank you. Enjoyed it very much. Looking forward to doing it in person in Washington. Also, we had a group in Los Banas, an organization called 10-6 in conjunction with a group called We Hope. And they did a homeless feed. They did the food for them, shower and haircuts and job placement assistance service. They had that today. So let everybody know that those organizations are there. And if anyone wants to be in contact with them, I'd be happy to make contact. 10-6, the family that runs it, the young man was a student of mine 20 years ago. So it's nice to see him giving back. That's it.
Okay, Director Aguilar. Is he on?
He is on.
Yes, no. Oh, okay. Director Aguilar. And then I'm moving on to Director Kale.
Yes, I want to say it was a great job by staff, and Scotty did a great job leading us, and me and Councilman Ambrose learned so much during that week that we're going to be definitely ready for next year, because now we know what we need to do, and we're already preparing to beg for more money next year. And I want to make one comment about the chair. I appreciate your moving forward behind your background, because I was getting tired of that finger poking you in the ear.
That's the whole point of that, I think. All right. Well, let's move on to Director Espinosa. Is he here? Yes, no? I haven't heard him. Let's move to Director McDaniel.
Thank you, Chair. I just like to reiterate the one voice trip I thought was very good. Thank you to everybody for participating, and a special thank you to staff and Scott Silvera. He did a great job of leading it, just like Mr. Keel said. He, like I said, we were all experts in each of our subjects, but Scott had to have an overview of all subjects. So I appreciated his facilitations.
All right. Director Pedroso.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to also, I remember many of those one voice trips with Pat and talking about the egrets and stuff. And I know at one point in time, they just wanted to get a gun and go shoot him. We said, hey, Pat, you gotta calm down. But no, I'm glad that happened. And I know that I spoke with my colleagues before One Voice, and they were a little nervous about how the trip was going to go, or how this was going to go this year. And they both said that everything turned out really, really, really well. So I appreciate the representatives and the people that went, or the people that, you know, took the time. I know it was a lot of time and a lot of effort went into it. And so I appreciate that. The one other thing that I want to just kind of ask and have the board kind of talk about, and would like to discuss this at our next meeting, is that I know that we, last week, the homeless numbers came out, and I know that MCAG really doesn't deal with homelessness, and we've talked about that before, but I would like for us to maybe have a discussion about creating a subcommittee to where we discuss some of the homeless issues in the county. I know that we have the COC, and I know that Mayor Serrato is the chairman of it and does a great job. I've spoken with Executive Director Guzman. I've spoken with the CEO. This wouldn't be something staffed by MCAG. This would be something staffed specifically by I call him the homeless czar, John Checkley, who Jim, our CEO, Jim Brown, has said that he would, you know, he's okay with that, and he can direct him to do that. I just think that because of what's going on, that it would be good for us as elected representatives of our districts or cities and county to have a conversation. And being that we're able to have these meetings and all get together and talk about these things, I think would really be beneficial in kind of figuring out different opportunities and things that are going on. So again, this isn't something that would be staffed by MCAG. This isn't something that would add anything to MCAG's plate. This would be completely staffed by Merced County, and it would also allow us to have that conversation. So as a collective group. So I would like us to be able to discuss that at our next meeting.
So Madam Chair, I'd just like to confirm that I'll take that as a agenda item request for next month. So I'll place that on the June agenda for discussion.
Sounds good. Okay, and lastly, we have Director Serrato.
Yeah, real quick, John, to your point too, we have, I believe, currently 8 open seats on the 19-member COC board. We have 11 currently and 8 to go. So, you know, that's a potential, not saying to do it or not, but, you know, more involvement from the members of this board potentially on that board as well, you know, would be Supervisor Pereira has been in the middle of it for a long time. So he's been a great force as well. City Manager Breezy from Los Banos. But just, you know, maybe a little broader group from this board on that board, you know, is another thought. I know we've discussed that in the past as well recently. So just another thought, not saying we do it, but we'll be in touch. So that's all for me.
Okay. And for me, I just want to thank Christine Chavez for coming to our meeting this week. It was nice to see MCAG at our city council meeting. So thank you for doing that. And I I just look forward to seeing everybody in person. So with that, I am going to, we're going to move into closed session. So everyone who is on the Zoom will stay on the Zoom. And those of us who need to move into closed session have a telephone number to call.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Stacy. I sent a teleconference line earlier, sometime after lunch. If anyone needs me to resend it again, please just let me know. And you can just mute yourself on Zoom, and Mary Michael can also do that on the back end. So you don't need to log out of Zoom, but call into the conference line. Staff here, actually it'll be Nav Bagri, will initiate the conference line here at MCAG, and then we'll leave the call, and the closed session will be led by council.
And Madam Chair, before we go into closed session, we do need to open it up for public comment on that item.
I see no hands raised, Madam Chair.
It looks like Madam Chair has frozen or locked.
Okay.
So there was no public comment?
That's correct.
All right.
Looks like Scott's photo.
Well, anyways, okay, so let's move to closed session. As Vice Chair, can I do that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
so just to reiterate, don't log off of Zoom. I'm just going to move you into attendee mode, and no one will be able to see or hear any of you. So just give me a second to do that.
Okay. Maybe at this point, we could take about a 3-minute break if anybody needs to get a drink of water.
All right, everyone. Closed session has concluded, and I will be bringing back board members and council.
And Mary Michael, we're waiting for Lloyd to conclude the meeting. April had a technical issue and won't be able to rejoin.
Okay, I see her on, but
If you could let us know once you have everybody back into the meeting, then we'll proceed.
Great, will do. Was someone calling in from a 559? No. All right. So I have, of the folks that are on Zoom, I have all the directors and council and the executive director back, and I will continue to watch if people join.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting back in session. We will move to item 21, report from closed session. I'll let call on our council to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board voted to enter into a 5-year contract with the executive director at her current rate of pay plus 10%, her current benefits package, with the provisions regarding the COLA in her current contract intact.
Okay, thank you for that report out. Congratulations, Stacy, and we're grateful to have you for another 5 years.
Thank you. I don't know if it's appropriate, but thank you so much.
That's very appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then, and Stacy, so we also would like to have on the next meeting agenda, we would like to have an item that would be your evaluation and to pick an ad hoc committee.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can thank Director Silvera for that. He, well, all of us know that you like feedback. So anyways,
I do.
He brought it up for us.
Thank you.
Sorry, Supervisor Silvera, I just broke closed session rules. Anyways, is there anything else to come before the meeting? If not, Supervisor McDaniel.
Yeah, I just like to congratulate Stacy. You've done a great job. Appreciate what you're doing through COVID, through some of the other turmoil that went on before that. I just want to know this director does appreciate your work as well as everybody else does. So thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay, I see, well, let's see. I see no other raised hands. So I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Scott's looking very focused right now, though.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.